The massive circular chamber of Harmony Station buzzed with panic as representatives from 12 different alien species filled their designated seats. Speaker Thane stood at the center podium, his green-scaled hands trembling slightly as he called for order. The emergency holographic displays showed scenes of destruction that none of the council members had ever witnessed before. Floating debris from crystalline collective ships drifted silently through space near the mining world of Faroes. The beautiful crystal formations that made up their vessels lay shattered like broken glass across several thousand kilometers. Admiral Quartz had sent his final transmission 3 days ago, reporting that human ships had appeared and demanded their immediate withdrawal from what they called human territory. The insectoid representatives from the Hive Queens clicked their mandibles nervously as footage played of their swarm ships around the agricultural planet of Verd. Thousands of their sleek bio-ships floated dead in space, their organic hulls somehow burned through by weapons that the Queen Mother Buzz had described as primitive projectile systems before her signal went dark. But the most shocking display showed the aftermath near Sigma Centauri, where the Synthetic Alliance had sent their most advanced automated fleet. The metal beings prided themselves on logical efficiency and superior technology. Now their geometric ships lay twisted and broken among the asteroids, their advanced AI systems somehow overwhelmed by what their final reports called crude but effective human tactics. Ambassador Keller sat quietly at the newcomer table, occasionally taking small sips from a metal container that steamed slightly. The human appeared completely relaxed, despite being surrounded by increasingly agitated alien delegates. When Speaker Thane finally managed to restore some semblance of order, all eyes turned toward the human representative, Ambassador Keller. Speaker Thane began, his voice carrying the weight of genuine fear. "We have received disturbing reports from 3 separate sectors. Your species has engaged in unprovoked attacks against peaceful exploration fleets." Keller set down the metal container and stood slowly. The human moved with an easy confidence that somehow made several delegates unconsciously lean back in their seats. "Speaker Thane, with respect, I must correct your assessment. Human forces conducted routine patrol exercises in sectors that border our established settlements. Any hostile contact was met with standard defensive protocols." The chamber erupted in angry chittering, buzzing, and electronic protests. Representative Gleam from the Crystalline Collective projected her crystalline voice above the noise. "Defensive protocols? Your ships destroyed an entire exploration fleet in less than 20 minutes. The crystalline vessels approached our patrol ships with weapons powered and refused to identify themselves when challenged," Keller replied calmly. "Our captains followed established first contact procedures and responded with proportionate force when fired upon." Queen Mother Hive buzzed loudly through her translator. "Proportionate force? Our bioships were completely destroyed. Not a single human vessel showed significant damage." Keller nodded as if this information was perfectly reasonable. "Our ships are built to withstand hostile environments. Your vessels appear to be designed for more controlled conditions." The engagement lasted exactly 17 minutes, during which time our forces attempted to disable rather than destroy your craft. The synthetic representative Unit Prime spoke in perfectly modulated tones. "Our analysis indicates impossible human tactical performance. Your species achieved victory ratios that contradict all known military mathematics." "Mathematics assumes comparable operational parameters," Keller said, retrieving the metal container and taking another sip. "Human forces operate under different baseline conditions than most galactic species." Speaker Thane struggled to maintain diplomatic protocol while his species' survival instincts screamed warnings about the calm predator sitting in their midst. "Ambassador, we need to understand how your species achieved such decisive victories against technologically superior forces." Keller paused, seeming to consider the question carefully. "Speaker Thane, I believe there may be some fundamental misunderstandings about human military capabilities. What you call decisive victories, our fleet commanders classified as minor skirmishes with minimal casualties." The chamber fell silent except for the hum of life support systems. Finally, Representative Gleam spoke in barely audible crystal tones. Minimal casualties? Human forces suffered exactly 17 injuries across all 3 engagements, Keller confirmed. No deaths, no permanent disabilities, and only minor damage to 3 destroyer escorts. Our medical teams had the wounded back on duty within 6 hours. Queen Mother Hive's mandibles clicked rapidly in what her species used to express extreme agitation. 17 injuries? Our entire fleets were destroyed. As I mentioned, your vessels appear to be designed for benign operational environments, Keller said. Human ships are constructed to survive impact with celestial bodies, operate in corrosive atmospheres, and maintain function during gravitational stress that would crush most known materials. Unit Prime processed this information with visible strain on its optical sensors. You are suggesting that human military technology is not advanced, but rather engineered for extreme durability. Exactly, Keller nodded approvingly. Human engineering. Philosophy prioritizes operational effectiveness over efficiency. Our weapon systems, defensive capabilities, and tactical doctrines are all designed around the assumption that equipment will be damaged and personnel will be operating under hostile conditions. Speaker Thane felt a cold dread settling over his scaled hide. Ambassador, are you telling this council that your species treats interstellar warfare as a routine operational challenge? Keller's expression shifted slightly, showing what might have been surprise. Speaker Thane, with all due respect, the recent engagements were not warfare. Human forces were conducting standard patrol operations and responded to apparent threats according to established protocols. If the Council wishes to see examples of human warfare capabilities, I can arrange for historical documentation to be transmitted. The silence that followed this offer was absolute. Even the station's environmental system seemed to quiet as 12 different species contemplated the implications of the human's casual statement. Finally, Speaker Thane found his voice. Ambassador Keller, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I am formally requesting an immediate cessation of all human military activities pending diplomatic resolution of these territorial disputes. Keller stood and retrieved the metal container. I will transmit your request to Earth Command immediately. However, I should mention that human forces will continue to maintain defensive positions around our established settlements until territorial boundaries are formally clarified through proper diplomatic channels. As the human representative left the chamber, 12 species of advanced alien civilizations sat in stunned silence, each beginning to realize that they had accidentally provoked something far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. The beings from the small blue world in the outer spiral arm were not the primitive species they had assumed, but rather something that their peaceful galactic society had no framework for understanding. In the growing quiet of Council Chamber, Speaker Thane made a decision that would reshape galactic politics forever. Tomorrow, he would call for the formation of a special committee to study the human species and determine exactly what kind of beings they were dealing with. Fleet Admiral Torres stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Defiance, watching the tactical displays that showed human fleet positions across 3 star systems. The massive warship hung in space at the edge of Saurian territory, its dark hull scarred from countless operations in environments that would destroy most alien vessels. When the communication from the Galactic Council arrived, Torres read it aloud to the bridge crew. Immediate cessation of all military activities pending diplomatic resolution, Torres announced. The bridge fell silent for exactly 3 seconds. Before Lieutenant Davis at the navigation station snorted with barely contained laughter. Soon the entire bridge crew was chuckling quietly while maintaining their professional posts. Admiral, Commander Brooks said from the tactical station, should I inform the fleet to stand down from current operations? Torres considered the question, while reviewing the deployment reports on his personal display. Captain Reed's destroyer squadron was currently maintaining position near the crystalline mining operation at Pharos. Colonel Martinez had his ground forces establishing defensive positions on Verd after the insectoid forces had withdrawn. The automated cleanup crews were still processing the wreckage from the Synthetic Alliance engagement near Sigma Centauri. "Negative, Commander," Torres replied. "Signal all units to maintain current operational status. We will continue defensive patrols and territorial security operations as previously ordered." Captain Reed's voice crackled through the communication system from her flagship, the destroyer Relentless. "Admiral, requesting permission to file my after-action report regarding the crystalline engagement." "Granted, Captain," Torres responded. "Transmit when ready." Reed's voice carried the professional tone of an experienced combat officer. At 14:30 ship time, Destroyer Squadron 7 encountered 12 crystalline collective vessels conducting what appeared to be mining operations in disputed territory. When challenged, the alien vessels powered weapons and adopted aggressive formations. Squadron responded with standard warning shots across their bow sections. Torres nodded as he reviewed the tactical recordings on his screen. The human destroyers had fired single projectile rounds that passed within meters of the crystalline ships. By human standards, this was an extremely restrained warning gesture. The alien vessels interpreted warning shots as hostile action and opened fire with energy weapons, Reed continued. Squadron responded with defensive protocols, targeting alien weapon systems and propulsion units to disable rather than destroy. The Admiral watched the engagement unfold on his screen. Human kinetic weapons, designed to penetrate the armored hull of Earth's naval vessels, had torn through the delicate crystal structures like bullets through glass. The crystalline ships, built for efficiency in their homeworld's low-gravity environment, simply could not withstand weapons designed for Deathworld conditions. Engagement duration was 17 minutes, Reed reported. No human casualties, minor scoring on 3 destroyer hulls from alien energy weapons. Alien fleet was completely disabled. We offered assistance to survivors and provided emergency supplies before withdrawing to defensive positions. Torres switched to the ground forces channel. Colonel Martinez, report on planetary operations. Martinez's voice carried the slight echo of someone speaking through environmental gear. General defensive positions established on Verd, Admiral. Local insectoid forces withdrew after brief contact with advanced reconnaissance teams. No human casualties. Estimated 47 alien injuries during their retreat. Injuries during retreat? Torres asked. The local gravity is approximately 0.8 Earth normal, but the atmospheric composition requires environmental suits, Martinez explained. When our troops advanced in standard combat formation, the alien forces apparently panicked and injured themselves during rapid withdrawal. Their equipment seems designed for controlled environment operations only. Torres pulled up the environmental data for Verd. By human standards, it was a pleasant world with clean air and comfortable gravity. The fact that human soldiers required breathing apparatus was simply a normal operational consideration. The insectoid forces had apparently never encountered troops who could operate effectively in hostile atmospheric conditions. "Admiral," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving priority transmissions from Earth Command." The message was brief and direct. Earth's military leadership had reviewed the Galactic Council's ceasefire demand and the tactical reports from all 3 engagement zones. Their response was characteristically human in its straightforward nature. Torres composed his reply to the Council while reviewing the strategic situation. Human forces controlled defensive positions around 6 different worlds, had established clear superiority in 3 separate star systems, and had accomplished all objectives with minimal casualties. By human military standards, this constituted a textbook example of successful territorial defense operations. "Communications, transmit the following message to Harmony Station," Torres ordered. "Human forces acknowledge Council communication regarding cessation of military activities. Current operations are classified as defensive territorial security measures and will continue, pending formal establishment of recognized boundaries through appropriate diplomatic channels. Human Command remains committed to peaceful resolution of territorial disputes and offers continued humanitarian assistance to any species requiring emergency aid in contested areas. Commander Brooks looked up from his tactical display. Admiral, should we inform the Council about our actual military capabilities? Torres considered the question while watching the holographic display of human fleet positions. The current operations involved exactly 12% of Earth's total military capacity. The ships currently deployed were standard patrol vessels, not the heavy assault craft or siege platforms that comprised the bulk of human military strength. Negative, Commander, Torres decided. Our current operational orders are to maintain defensive positions and avoid unnecessary escalation. The Council has not requested information about human military doctrine, and we are not obligated to provide intelligence briefings to non-allied entities. The Admiral reviewed the casualty reports one more time. 17 minor human injuries. Across 3 major engagements, 0 deaths. Property damage limited to superficial scoring on destroyer hulls. Mission objectives achieved with overwhelming success. By contrast, alien forces had suffered complete tactical defeats, total loss of equipment, and significant personnel casualties during their retreats. The disparity was so extreme that it bordered on the absurd. Sir, Lieutenant Davis called from navigation, we're detecting new alien fleet movements in the Aquarian sector. Torres studied the sensor readings. A large formation of ships designed for aquatic operations was approaching the water world of Atlantica, apparently believing that their specialized environment would provide tactical advantages. Signal Captain Morgan on the submarine tender. Pacific, Torres ordered. Inform her that she may have an opportunity to field test the new underwater combat protocols. As the bridge crew prepared for what would likely be another one-sided engagement, Torres reflected on the fundamental problem facing the Galactic Council. They were trying to fight beings who had evolved in conditions that most species considered uninhabitable. Every human military system was designed to operate in environments that would kill most alien life forms. The Council wanted a ceasefire, but they did not understand that humans were not actually fighting a war. They were simply conducting normal operations while surrounded by beings who could not survive in the conditions that humans considered routine. 3 days after the Council's ceasefire demand, Speaker Thane received the reports that would haunt his dreams for cycles to come. The Aquatic Federation had launched what they called their most sophisticated naval operation, confident that their mastery of underwater combat would finally give them an advantage over the mysterious humans. Admiral Reef had led 47 specialized vessels to the water world of Atlantica, each ship designed specifically for deep ocean warfare. The Aquatic Federation had evolved in the crushing depths of their homeworld's oceans, and their technology reflected millions of years of adaptation to underwater environments. No other galactic species could match their capabilities beneath. The waves. The engagement lasted 12 minutes. Speaker Thane stared at the tactical recordings with growing horror. Human vessels had not merely operated underwater, they had dominated completely. The alien ships, designed for their species' optimal depth ranges, found themselves outmaneuvered by human craft that seemed equally comfortable on the surface, underwater, or transitioning between the two environments. How deep did the human ships operate? Thane asked the aquatic representative, Admiral Tide. 8,000 meters, Tide replied, his gills fluttering with distress. Pressures that should have crushed any surface-dwelling species technology. Their ships showed no signs of structural stress whatsoever. The holographic display showed human submarines moving through the deep ocean with predatory efficiency. Their weapons, apparently the same kinetic projectiles used in space combat, functioned perfectly underwater. The Aquatic Federation's elegant bioships, optimized for their specific environmental needs, were systematically disabled by weapons designed to work in any environment. Admiral Tide? Speaker Thane said carefully. What were the human casualties? 0 deaths, 11 minor injuries from rapid decompression when their ships surfaced too quickly, Tide reported. Our forces suffered complete tactical defeat. Every vessel disabled or destroyed. 312 personnel requiring immediate medical assistance. Before Speaker Thane could fully process this information, the emergency communication system activated. The gaseous consortium was requesting immediate council assistance. Their atmospheric supremacy forces had engaged human ships near the gas giant Nimbus, and the results followed the same impossible pattern. Commander Drift of the gaseous consortium appeared as a shimmering holographic presence, his energy-based form flickering with agitation. Council Speaker, our finest atmospheric pilots have been completely outmatched. Human ships operated in pressure differentials and gravitational fields that should have liquefied any solid matter species. The tactical display showed sleek, gaseous ships designed for elegant maneuvering in atmospheric conditions, being systematically outflown by human craft that seemed to treat the gas giant's crushing environment as routine operational space. Human pilots had apparently trained for conditions that would instantly kill most galactic species. The human fighters descended to pressure levels of 47 standard atmospheres, Commander Drift continued. Their pilots showed no degradation in performance despite gravitational stress that should have rendered them unconscious. Our analysis indicates impossible human tolerance for environmental extremes. Speaker Thane felt his scales growing cold as the pattern became undeniable. Every engagement followed the same sequence. Alien forces confident in their specialized advantages, human forces treating those same extreme conditions as normal operational parameters, and complete alien defeat with minimal human casualties. The Council's military advisors had been working around the clock to analyze human capabilities. Their preliminary report made for terrifying reading. Human technology was not more advanced than galactic standards, but it was built to different specifications entirely. Where other species optimized for efficiency and controlled environments, humans designed everything to survive in conditions that most species considered uninhabitable. Representative Gleam from the crystalline collective transmitted a question that had been troubling the entire council. Speaker Thane, we must ask directly, are the humans actually trying to conquer galactic territory? Or are they simply defending their settlements? The answer came from the council's intelligence analysis. Human forces had not attempted to occupy alien worlds or establish permanent bases in non-human territory. Instead, they had consistently established defensive perimeters around their existing settlements and responded to what they perceived as territorial challenges. The evidence suggests that human forces view these engagements as defensive operations. Thane admitted reluctantly, their tactical objectives appear focused on establishing secure boundaries rather than territorial expansion. Unit Prime from the Synthetic Alliance provided additional analysis that chilled the chamber. Council Speaker, our computational models indicate that human forces are operating under significant tactical restraints. Their engagement patterns suggest active efforts to minimize alien casualties rather than maximize tactical advantage. The implications of this statement settled over the council like a toxic cloud. If humans were holding back, if they were actively trying not to hurt the alien forces they encountered, then what would happen if they decided to stop being gentle? Queen Mother Hive buzzed a question that no one wanted to answer. What are human capabilities when they are not restraining themselves? The Council's research teams had managed to intercept some human military communications during the engagements. The translations were incomplete, but certain phrases had been identified: minimum necessary force, disable, don't destroy, and humanitarian protocols. Human commanders were apparently operating under strict orders to avoid unnecessary alien casualties. Speaker Thane reviewed the casualty reports one more time. 3 major engagements, 4 minor skirmishes, and 1 underwater battle. Total human losses, 0 deaths, 28 minor injuries. Total alien losses, 7 complete fleets destroyed, over 600 personnel casualties, and complete tactical defeat in every encounter. The most disturbing element was the apparent ease with which humans achieved these results. Their communications indicated routine operational procedures rather than desperate combat actions. Human forces were treating encounters with advanced galactic military units the same way other species might treat minor training exercises. Speaker Thane, Admiral Tide said quietly, we need to consider the possibility that we have made a catastrophic error in judgment. The chamber fell silent as 12 species contemplated the same terrifying conclusion. They had assumed that the humans were a primitive species lucky enough to achieve interstellar travel. Instead, they were dealing with beings who had evolved in conditions so hostile that normal galactic environments posed no challenge whatsoever. We need more information. Speaker Thane decided. Representative Gleam, what can your intelligence services tell us about human military doctrine? Our analysis teams are examining captured human equipment, Gleam replied. Initial reports suggest that their weapons are designed to penetrate armored targets in high-gravity environments. Their defensive systems assume exposure to radiation, corrosive atmospheres, and gravitational stress that would destroy most known materials. The Council was slowly beginning to understand that they had not encountered an aggressive military expansion by a hostile species. Instead, they had made contact with beings whose normal operational capabilities exceeded the emergency survival limits of most galactic civilizations. As the emergency session continued through another rotation cycle, one fact became increasingly clear. The humans were not the ones who needed to be contained. The galactic species were the ones who needed protection from their own assumptions about what constituted normal military engagement. Ambassador Keller stood before the fully of the Galactic Council, having requested permission to address the growing crisis that had consumed galactic politics for the past week. The chamber was packed with representatives from every major species, their attention focused entirely on the calm human figure at the central podium. Honored delegates, Keller began, activating a holographic display system. I believe the time has come to clarify some fundamental misunderstandings about human capabilities and our recent military encounters. The first image that appeared showed a blue-green world orbiting a yellow star. Earth looked peaceful and inviting from space, its white clouds and deep oceans creating a beautiful marble against the black of space. This is Earth, the human homeworld, Keller explained. To most galactic species, it appears to be a standard Class M planet suitable for carbon-based life. However, appearances can be deceiving. The display shifted to show environmental data that made several delegates gasp audibly. Surface gravity of 9.8 meters per second squared, atmospheric pressure of 101.3 kilopascals, and oxygen concentration of 21% in a nitrogen-dominant atmosphere. These readings indicate a Class 12 death world, Representative Gleam said, her crystalline voice carrying notes of disbelief. No sentient species could evolve in such hostile conditions. With respect, Representative Gleam, humans did exactly that, Keller replied. Every human in this chamber, every human serving in our military forces, and every human living on our settlements was born and raised in these conditions. The next series of images showed human cities during various natural disasters. Hurricanes, with wind speeds that would shatter most alien structures, earthquakes that would level standard galactic construction, and volcanic eruptions that created atmospheric conditions toxic to most species. Human civilization developed while constantly exposed to environmental hazards that most galactic species encounter only during catastrophic emergencies, Keller continued. Our technology, our military doctrine, and our operational procedures all assume that personnel and equipment will regularly face conditions that would be lethal to most galactic life forms. Speaker Thane leaned forward in his seat. Ambassador, are you suggesting that human military superiority stems from environmental adaptation rather than advanced technology? Exactly, Speaker Thane, Keller confirmed. Allow me to demonstrate with footage from standard human military training. The holographic display showed human soldiers operating in Arctic conditions with temperatures that would instantly freeze saurian blood. The humans moved normally, completed complex tasks, and maintained combat effectiveness in an environment that several species in the chamber could not survive for more than minutes. This is basic cold weather training, Keller explained. Every human soldier completes this course before being considered combat ready. The next sequence showed underwater combat exercises. Human divers operated at depths and pressures that had overwhelmed the Aquatic Federation's specialized forces. The humans performed complex tactical maneuvers, while breathing artificial atmosphere and carrying equipment that would crush most alien physiology. Standard underwater operations training, Keller noted casually, required for all naval personnel. Queen Mother Hive buzzed frantically as footage showed human pilots training in gravitational centrifuges that simulated acceleration forces far beyond what her swarm warriors could survive. The humans remained conscious and functional under stress that would liquefy most insectoid nervous systems. Basic aerospace training, Keller said. Every human pilot must demonstrate competency under these conditions before being cleared for atmospheric flight operations. Unit Prime processed the data with visible strain on its optical systems. Ambassador Keller, you are indicating that human military training routinely exposes personnel to conditions that would constitute survival emergencies for most galactic species. That is correct, Keller confirmed. What other species consider extreme survival scenarios humans classify as normal operational parameters? The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The devastating defeats that had shattered alien confidence were not the result of superior human technology or aggressive military doctrine. They were the inevitable outcome of galactic species encountering beings whose normal capabilities exceeded their emergency limits. Ambassador, Speaker Thane said carefully, the engagements that have occurred over the past week, how would human military command classify those operations? Keller paused, apparently considering how to phrase the answer diplomatically. Speaker Thane, human forces classified the recent encounters as first contact protocols and reconnaissance operations. The tactical objectives were information gathering and establishment of defensive perimeters around human settlements. First contact protocols? Admiral Tide asked, his gills fluttering with distress. Human military doctrine assumes that initial contact with unknown forces may be hostile, Keller explained. Our engagement rules require overwhelming tactical superiority to protect human personnel, while minimizing casualties among potentially friendly forces. Representative Gleam's crystalline form brightened with sudden understanding. You were holding back. Human forces were actively trying not to hurt us. Our commanders followed standard protocols for engaging potentially hostile but technologically inferior forces, Keller confirmed. Human weapon systems, defensive capabilities, and tactical procedures are designed around the assumption that combat will occur in hostile environments against opponents using advanced technology. Commander Drift of the gaseous consortium shimmered with agitation. What would constitute actual warfare by human standards? Keller's expression grew serious. Commander Drift, human military doctrine includes concepts that would be difficult to explain in terms of galactic warfare conventions. Our strategic planning assumes acceptable casualty rates, total resource commitment, and operational environments that most species would consider apocalyptic survival scenarios. The display shifted to show archived footage from human history. Cities reduced to rubble, vast armies moving across devastated landscapes, and weapons that could eliminate entire population centers. The images showed warfare conducted with an intensity and scale that horrified the peaceful galactic civilizations. This is human warfare, Keller said quietly. Total commitment of resources, acceptance of massive casualties, and systematic destruction of enemy capabilities until unconditional surrender is achieved. The silence that followed was absolute. Every delegate in the chamber was processing the terrifying realization that they had encountered a species whose peaceful first contact procedures had completely overwhelmed their military capabilities. Ambassador Keller, Speaker Thane finally managed, what are human intentions regarding galactic territory and alien populations? Earth Command has authorized me to offer formal diplomatic relations with any species interested in peaceful coexistence, Keller replied. Human expansion plans focus on colonizing uninhabitable worlds that other species cannot use. We have no interest in conquering territory suitable for existing galactic civilizations. Queen Mother Hive buzzed a question that summarized the Council's new reality. What assurance do we have that humans will continue to restrain themselves? Keller smiled slightly, an expression that somehow made several delegates feel simultaneously reassured and terrified. Honored delegates, human restraint is not based on weakness or fear. We practice careful engagement protocols because we prefer to solve problems through negotiation rather than force. However, we are fully prepared to defend ourselves and our allies if peaceful solutions prove impossible. As the Assembly absorbed this information, Speaker Thane realized that galactic politics had fundamentally changed. The Council was no longer dealing with a potentially hostile expansion by an unknown species. They were negotiating with beings who could eliminate galactic civilization, but preferred to be neighbors instead. 6 months after the emergency sessions that had reshaped galactic politics, Speaker Thane stood in the newly constructed diplomatic wing of Harmony Station. The corridors had been modified with environmental controls capable of supporting human physiology alongside the 12 established galactic species. The changes were more symbolic than practical, since humans could operate in standard galactic environments with minimal life support equipment. The Council's final vote had been unanimous, though the debate had lasted for weeks. The Human Exclusion Protocols established a new framework for galactic diplomacy based on acknowledging that some species operated under fundamentally different parameters than the established civilizations, rather than attempting to contain or control human expansion. The Council had opted for what Representative Gleam diplomatically termed respectful coexistence through strategic separation. Human settlements were granted broad territorial autonomy, while alien species maintained their traditional spheres of influence with formal recognition of human defensive capabilities. Ambassador Keller had been remarkably accommodating during the negotiations. Human territorial claims were limited to worlds that other species considered uninhabitable, high-gravity planets, worlds with toxic atmospheres, and systems with radiation levels that would sterilize most galactic life forms. In exchange, humans offered mutual defense agreements and emergency assistance to any species requesting aid. The arrangement had proven surprisingly beneficial for galactic stability. 3 separate territorial disputes between alien species had been resolved when human peacekeeping forces established neutral zones and environments too hostile for the conflicting parties to contest. Pirates and raiders had virtually disappeared from sectors where human patrol ships operated, since criminal organizations discovered that beings capable of surviving Deathworld conditions made extremely effective law enforcement officers. Fleet Admiral Torres had established permanent headquarters on the former mining world of Pharos, now renamed New Geneva in honor of old Earth diplomatic traditions. The human military presence served multiple functions: territorial defense, humanitarian assistance, and what Council intelligence services quietly referred to as deterrent demonstration. The Deathworld Studies program had become the most prestigious research initiative in galactic academia. Universities across 12 star systems competed for opportunities to study human capabilities and environmental adaptation. The research had practical applications beyond pure science, as several species discovered that human-designed equipment could operate in conditions previously considered impossible. Dr. Reef from the Aquatic Federation had published groundbreaking papers on pressure-resistant technology after examining human submarine construction. The Crystalline Collective had revolutionized their mining operations, using principles learned from human engineering approaches to hostile environments. Even the Synthetic Alliance had upgraded their computational systems after studying human decision-making under extreme stress conditions. The most significant change was philosophical rather than technological. Galactic civilization had operated under the assumption that intelligent species would naturally develop along similar lines, optimizing for efficiency and controlled environments. Humans demonstrated that intelligence could evolve under radically different conditions, leading to capabilities that seemed impossible by conventional standards. Ambassador Keller had become something of a celebrity in diplomatic circles, frequently invited to speak at universities and research institutions. The humans' presentations on Deathworld evolution and adaptation had fundamentally changed. How galactic scientists understood the relationship between environment and development. The key insight, Keller explained during a lecture at the Saurian Science Academy, is that humans do not consider our capabilities to be extraordinary. From our perspective, we are simply well adapted to our environment. The fact that our environment would be lethal to most galactic species is not something we think about consciously. The lecture hall was packed with students and researchers from multiple species, all eager to understand how beings from a Class 12 death world had achieved interstellar civilization. The questions revealed how profoundly human contact had challenged established scientific assumptions. "Ambassador," asked a young crystalline researcher, "how do humans maintain psychological stability while constantly exposed to life-threatening conditions?" Keller considered the question carefully. "We do not perceive our environment as constantly threatening because we evolved to thrive in these conditions. What you consider life-threatening, we experience as normal daily life. A human child playing outside during a thunderstorm is not demonstrating unusual courage, but simply engaging in typical recreational activity." The audience's reaction to this statement had become familiar to Keller over the months of academic presentations. Several species required medical attention whenever they fully grasped the implications of human environmental tolerance. Back at Harmony Station, Speaker Thane reviewed the latest reports from sectors with human presence. Crime rates had dropped by 97% in systems with human patrol ships. Interspecies conflicts had virtually disappeared in regions where human peacekeepers could intervene. Emergency rescue operations had achieved unprecedented success rates thanks to human teams, capable of operating in conditions that would prevent other species from mounting rescue attempts. The irony was not lost on galactic leadership. The species they had initially feared as potential conquerors had become the most effective peacekeeping force in galactic history, simply because no one else could operate in the environments where conflicts typically occurred. Queen Mother Hive had established a formal alliance with human colonial authorities after her scientists discovered that human agricultural techniques could increase food production on worlds previously considered marginal for farming. The insectoid species' traditional efficiency combined with human environmental adaptation had created the most productive agricultural systems in known space. The gaseous consortium had hired human pilots for exploration missions in extreme atmospheric conditions, discovering profitable resources in gas giants previously considered too dangerous to exploit. Commander Drift had publicly praised human aerospace capabilities as impossibly effective in impossible conditions. As Speaker Thane prepared for another council session, he reflected on how fundamentally galactic civilization had changed. The addition of one species had not disrupted the established order, but rather revealed new possibilities for expansion and cooperation. The final agenda item for today's session was a proposal from Ambassador Keller. Human scientists had identified several potentially habitable worlds in unexplored sectors, but these planets had environmental conditions that would require the combined expertise of multiple galactic species to properly evaluate. "Honored delegates," Keller would say, "humanity offers to serve as advanced scouts for joint exploration missions to worlds that individual species might find challenging to investigate independently." The proposal represented everything that galactic politics had become since human contact: cooperation, based on complementary capabilities rather than competition for limited resources. Humans could survive in environments that would kill other species, while other species possess specialized knowledge and technology that humans lacked. As Speaker Thane called the session to order, he looked around the chamber at representatives from 13 different species working together to expand galactic civilization beyond its previous limits. The beings from the small blue death world had not conquered the galaxy through superior firepower, but had instead shown everyone that there were more ways to be intelligent than anyone had previously imagined.